There's a question that echoes silently in hospital rooms, at gravesides, in quiet midnight reflections. If I live a good life, is that enough to enter heaven? It's not just a religious curiosity. It's the cry of the human soul, the longing to be acknowledged, to be redeemed, to be loved unconditionally. Across all cultures and faiths, people strive to be good. But what does it mean to live a good life? And is that goodness enough when it comes to eternity? In Christian theology, heaven is described as the ultimate dwelling place of God, a realm without pain, filled with joy and perfect peace. But beyond religious definition, heaven is often a symbol of the ideal, of eternal rest, of justice finally fulfilled. When a person forgives a deep betrayal, when a mother gives her last coin to a starving stranger, are these not glimpses of heaven breaking into earth? Could heaven begin not just after death, but through every act of true love? What does it really mean to live a good life? Is it about avoiding crime, giving to charity, being kind to animals and children? Different cultures, faiths, and philosophies define goodness differently. In some views, a good life is one of compassion and integrity. In others, it's a life in service to divine will. But here lies the tension. If someone lives a morally upright life, but does not believe in God, does that make their goodness invalid in the eyes of heaven? In Christianity, this has long been debated. Ephesians 2:8-9 says, "For it is by grace you have been saved, through faith, and this is not from yourselves, it is the gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast." So, does that mean good works alone are not enough? James 2:17 offers a bold counterpoint. Faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. This suggests that faith and deeds are not enemies, but partners. True faith expresses itself in action. True action is rooted in something deeper than morality, in a heart transformed by divine love. This is crucial. Living a good life isn't just about doing good, it's about becoming good. And becoming good, in Christian thought, requires a relationship with God, not just good behavior but grace. This is perhaps the most painful and personal question. I try to be a good person. I help others. I live with honesty. But I don't follow any religion. Does that mean I can't go to heaven? Even within Christianity, there is room for nuanced hope. Pope Francis once remarked that even atheists who live upright lives and follow their conscience are not excluded from the mercy of God. God is larger than doctrine. His love cannot be contained by human boundaries. In fact, the Catechism of the Catholic Church, CCC 847, affirms that those who, through no fault of their own, do not know Christ or the Church, but seek God with a sincere heart, may achieve eternal salvation. So perhaps heaven is not a reward for belief, but a destination for those whose hearts are aligned with love, even if they don't know the name of the one who is love. Let's reflect deeply here. Goodness without God can lead to pride, a sense that we have earned our salvation. But God's vision of righteousness isn't a checklist, it's a relationship. The paradox is this: no one is good enough for heaven. Not you, not me, not even the saints. Heaven is not earned, it is received, it is gift. But here's the mystery. Those who truly live a good life, selflessly, humbly, full of compassion, are often the ones who have unknowingly aligned themselves with God's own heart. So, is living a good life enough? On its own, maybe not. But if that goodness is real, deep, humble, and rooted in love, it may already be grace in action. Even if we believe salvation is by faith, not by deeds, goodness still matters. Not because it earns heaven, but because it reflects heaven. A life of goodness is a mirror of the divine. When we live well, honestly, compassionately, selflessly, we become witnesses to something higher. We plant seeds of eternity in the soil of everyday life. And most importantly, the world desperately needs more goodness. Not just religion, not just rules, but visible, humble, transforming love in action. The answer is complex and beautifully mysterious. Yes, if that life is lived with true love. Yes, if that goodness flows from a heart that seeks what is true and just. Yes, if that goodness is open to grace, even unknowingly. No, if that goodness is merely external, a performance, or a shield against the need for deeper surrender. No, if it becomes prideful, self-serving, or a substitute for a living relationship with the divine. But perhaps the real question isn't, is it enough? The real question is, am I becoming the kind of soul that belongs in heaven? Not because I've earned it, but because I've grown into it. Let's stop asking whether goodness is enough and start asking if goodness is real. Live a good life, not as a transaction for salvation, but as a response to love. Because perhaps, in the end, heaven isn't a prize for the perfect, but the home of those who have learned how to love. And maybe, just maybe, every act of kindness, every silent forgiveness, every quiet sacrifice is one more step toward heaven. Or perhaps, heaven stepping closer to us. Content generated by AI.